Damari, at 36 years old, understood the immense and unforgiving power of momentum. As a Savannah port pilot, his entire life was dedicated to managing it. He'd step from a small, bobbing launch onto the rope ladder of a 100,000-ton container ship, climb the equivalent of 7 stories in the humid Georgia air, and take command of a vessel worth $500 million. His job, earning him a steady but modest $74,000 a year, was to guide that unstoppable force through the narrow, treacherous channels of the Savannah River, inch by painstaking inch, to its birth. He knew that a 1-degree mistake miles out could become a catastrophic collision at the dock. Everything was about foresight, patience, and a deep respect for the things you could not see beneath the surface. Tonight, however, he was navigating a different kind of channel, one far more shallow and unpredictable. The 5th anniversary gala for his wife's art gallery. He stood near the edge of the polished dance floor in the Telfair Academy's rotunda, a grand, domed space that made him feel small and exposed. His rented tuxedo, a $450 expense that had made his stomach clench, felt stiff and foreign against his skin. He wore his faithful $95 Timex, its practical, glowing face a stark contrast to the glittering, diamond-encrusted watches on the wrists of the patrons. Yasmin was charming. Yasmin was in her element. She moved through the crowd of 180 guests like a ship under its own perfect power. Her gown, a shimmering silver creation that cost a staggering $3,200, flowing behind her. Her luminous, deep brown skin seemed to capture the light from the crystal chandeliers overhead. She was the owner of Aura, a boutique gallery, just off Forsyth Park that specialized in abstract sculpture and notoriously expensive Gula Geechee art. The gallery was her dream, a dream he had supported by working overtime, by taking the less desirable night and weekend shifts, and by pouring his savings, a little over $28,000, into her initial launch. The gala itself, a lavish affair with a string quartet, an open bar serving $150 a bottle champagne, and catering from the Gray, had cost them nearly $38,000, draining their joint account to a terrifyingly low 4-figure number. "It's an investment, darling," Yasmin had said, waving off his concerns. "You have to spend money to make the right people feel important." He had no idea what was coming. Have you ever felt that gnawing unease in a place where you're supposed to feel happy? That subtle, cold dread that tells you something is profoundly wrong, even when everyone around you is smiling? If you have, let us know in the comments how you handled it. Damari was feeling it now, a deep, tidal pull of wrongness in his gut. The facade of their life was as carefully curated as one of Yasmin's gallery exhibitions. Their home in Ardsley Park, a restored 1920s bungalow they'd bought for $420,000 3 years ago, was a testament to her taste. The walls were painted in muted, complex grays and blues, adorned with art from her gallery, a $15,000 metal sculpture here, a $9,000 abstract canvas there. Their furniture was minimalist and uncomfortable, chosen for its sharp lines and designer name, like the $6,000 Italian sofa that felt like sitting on a block of stylish concrete. Damari's contributions were relegated to the unseen. He was the one who, on his days off, had painstakingly stripped and refinished the original heart pine floors. He was the one who'd spent a month of weekends rebuilding the back porch, his hands, more accustomed to the sensitive controls of a ship's bow thrusters, growing calloused from the hammer and saw. The wood and nails had cost him $1,800 out of his personal account. Yasmin had praised the result, taking a picture for her Instagram with the caption, "Finally got our porch retreat finished, #homebody, #design." She hadn't tagged him. Their domestic life had become a series of quiet humiliations, each one a small, sharp cut. One Saturday morning, Damari had been in the kitchen, making coffee with their old, reliable $80 Mr. Coffee machine. He loved the gurgling sound it made, the simple, honest smell of brewing coffee. Yasmin walked in, dressed in a $400 silk robe, her expression one of faint disgust. Damari, we've talked about this. That thing is an eyesore. My friends come over. It's embarrassing. 2 days later, a sleek chrome La Marzocco espresso machine, costing $7,200, arrived. Damari never learned how to use it. He started stopping for a $2 cup of coffee at the Parker's gas station on his way to the port at 5 a.m. His job was another point of friction. She never called it a port pilot. To her friends, he was in shipping or worked at the port, vague terms that stripped his profession of its skill, danger, and vital importance to the global economy. He had once tried to explain the thrill of it, the profound responsibility. Yes, you should see it from the bridge. A ship the size of a skyscraper, and it's all in your hands. You feel the wind, the current. You're guiding this whole floating city home. She had been scrolling through her phone, barely looking up. That's nice, baby. Did you remember to call the landscapers? The azaleas look dreadful. The landscaping service cost them $500 a month. The escalating betrayal wasn't just in her dismissiveness, it was in her cruelty. A few months before the gala, they were at a dinner party at the home of one of her wealthiest patrons. The host, a real estate developer named Marcus Thorne, had asked Damari about his work. As Damari explained the intricate process of navigating a Panamax vessel, he saw Yasmin across the table, catching the eye of her friend, Kalia. Yasmin rolled her eyes in a tiny, almost imperceptible motion, and mouthed the word, boring. The word hit Damari like a rogue wave, knocking the air from his lungs. He faltered, his sentence trailing off. Marcus, oblivious, kept asking questions, but Damari's enthusiasm was gone, washed away by the cold tide of his wife's contempt. Kalia, a photographer with a warm smile and a mane of beautiful, natural coils, had looked away, a flicker of discomfort on her face. She and Damari had always had a quiet, respectful friendship. She seemed to be the only one in Yasmin's circle who saw him as a person rather than an accessory. What he didn't know was that Kalia was about to be put in an impossible position, one that would change everything. The week of the gala was the worst. Yasmin was a storm of nervous energy and sharp commands. Every detail had to be perfect. The flower arrangements, costing $2,500, were the wrong shade of white. The font on the $800 place cards was gauche. She spoke to Damari not as a husband, but as an incompetent assistant. Did you confirm the valet service? Don't just stand there, Damari, call them. I can't do everything. He had confirmed it that morning. On the Wednesday before the event, he came home from a grueling 14-hour shift, his body aching with fatigue. The smell of salt and diesel clung to him. He found Yasmin in their walk-in closet surrounded by shoeboxes. I have nothing to wear, she announced, her voice tight with panic. He pointed to the racks of designer dresses, a collection worth more than his Toyota Camry. What about all these? She waved a dismissive hand. Old. Everyone's seen them. I need something new, something that says success. The next day, the $3,200 silver gown arrived, a purchase made without a word of consultation. He felt like a ghost in his own life, a silent partner in a business he no longer understood. The love and laughter that had filled their small apartment on Victory Drive when they were first married had been methodically replaced by the cold, hard gloss of ambition. Her ambition. He was just the tide that lifted her boat. And he was beginning to realize the tide was going out, leaving him stranded on the shore. He stood in the Grand Rotunda, watching her laugh with a city councilman and felt an ache so profound it was almost physical. He had no idea how wrong he was. The ache was about to become an amputation. The discovery, when it came, was not his own. It belonged to Kalia. 2 days before the gala, on a Thursday afternoon, Kalia met Yasmin for lunch at the Collins Quarter. The restaurant was buzzing, sunlight streaming through the large windows. Yasmin, looking impeccable in a $900 linen suit, barely touched her $28 avocado toast. "I need a favor," Yasmin began, her voice low and conspiratorial. "A huge one." Kalia sipped her water. "What's up, Yas?" "It's about Damari." Yasmin sighed dramatically, a perfectly rehearsed expression of marital fatigue on her face. I don't know if he's really in this anymore. If he's truly committed. You know, I'm building an empire and he's content. It's a problem." Kalia frowned. "Damari seems like the most committed guy I know. He worships you." "That's the problem. It's too easy," Yasmin insisted, leaning forward. "I need to know for sure. I need a test, a loyalty test." A cold knot formed in Kalia's stomach. "What kind of test?" "At the gala," Yasmin said, her eyes gleaming. "I want you to flirt with him. And I don't mean just a little. I mean really lay it on thick. Touch his arm, compliment him, tell him he looks trapped, and you could be his escape. See if he bites." Kalia stared at her, speechless. The clatter of silverware and the hum of conversation around them faded into a dull roar. "You can't be serious, Yasmin. That's insane. And cruel. To him and to me?" "Oh, don't be so dramatic," Yasmin scoffed. "It's just a game. If he shuts you down, great. My mind is at ease. But if he doesn't, if he even hesitates, then I have my reason. I have my out." "An out?" Kalia whispered, horrified. "You're not testing his loyalty. You're building a case against him. You're manufacturing an excuse to leave." Yasmin's face hardened. "He's holding me back, Kalia. His whole world is so small. That port, that little boat he putters around in, that cheap watch. I'm meant for more than this, more than him. I just need a clean break, a reason that makes me the victim." Kalia felt sick. She looked at her friend, this woman she had known for years, and saw a stranger, a cold, calculating stranger who saw her husband not as a partner, but as a problem to be elegantly disposed of. "No," Kalia said, her voice firm. "I won't do it. I will not be a part of this. It's wrong, Yasmin. Damari is a good man." Yasmin's eyes narrowed into slits. "Fine. Be a coward. But you're a fool if you think your morality is going to stop me. I'll find someone else. But don't forget who helped get your photography in front of the thorns. Your loyalty should be to me." She stood up, tossing a $100 bill on the table. "My treat." She walked out without a backward glance. Kalia sat there for a long time, her heart pounding with a mixture of anger and disgust. She knew she couldn't just let this happen. She couldn't let Damari walk into that ambush. But how could she warn him without blowing up her own life, her career, which Yasmin had in fact helped? Later that evening, her phone buzzed. It was a voicemail from Yasmin. Kalia hesitated, then pressed play. Yasmin's voice, smooth and confident, filled her ear. It was a message clearly intended for another friend, probably sent to Kalia by mistake. "Hey girl, it's me. So Kalia flaked, total moral high ground garbage, whatever. You're up. Remember what we talked about. At the gala, I need you to go after Damari. Flirt hard. If he bites, I have my reason. I'm talking full court press. Tell him his wife doesn't appreciate him, but you would. Make it good. I'll make it worth your while. This is my ticket out. And I want it to be his fault. Call me back." Kalia's blood ran cold. She saved the voicemail. She listened to it again, the casual cruelty of the words, his fault, echoing in her head. This was irrefutable. This was Yasmin's entire strategy, her character, distilled into a 32-second recording. She had made a critical mistake. She had given Kalia the weapon, and Kalia knew with absolute certainty that she had to use it. Not for revenge, for justice, for Damari, for... Kalia's plan was simple, audacious, and required a cool head. She knew the DJ for the gala, a guy named Marcus, who went by DJ Ice. She'd worked with him at a few weddings and gallery openings. She also knew that, like most event DJs, he often took music requests or special announcements on a USB thumb drive. On Friday afternoon, she transferred the audio file of Yasmin's voicemail from her phone to a small, nondescript SanDisk USB drive she bought for $8 at a CVS. She renamed the file anniversary_message_special.mp3. She felt a tremor in her hands as she did it, the weight of her decision settling in. This was a point of no return. She was choosing a man's dignity over a toxic friendship. That evening, she drove to the Telfair Academy, where the event staff was setting up. She found DJ Ice by his booth, a massive console of blinking lights and tangled wires. "Kalia, what's good?" he said, pulling her into a quick hug. "Hey, Marcus, you're looking busy." "Always, girl. This is a high-pressure gig. Mrs. Thorne wannabe over there is wound tight." He nodded toward Yasmin, who was directing florists with sharp, angry gestures. Kalia took a deep breath. "Listen, I have a huge favor. Yasmin asked me to give you this." She handed him the $8 thumb drive. "It's a surprise for her husband. A special anniversary message. She wants you to play it right after he gives his toast. She said you'd know the moment." DJ Ice took the drive. "A message? Like a recording?" "Yeah," Kalia said, her heart hammering. "She recorded something for him. She wants it to be a big, public moment. You know how she is." He laughed. "Don't I ever? A big public moment is her middle name." "All right. Consider it done. Anniversary_message_special. I'll cue it up." "Perfect," Kalia said, forcing a smile. "You're a lifesaver." She walked away, her legs feeling unsteady. The lie had been so easy, the deception felt both terrible and necessary. She had just armed a missile and aimed it at the heart of her friend's beautifully constructed life. She wouldn't be attending the gala. She couldn't bear to watch the explosion. She would be at home, waiting for the fallout, praying she had done the right thing. Back at the gala, Damari was feigning normalcy, playing the part of the proud, supportive husband. He smiled, he shook hands, he made small talk about the weather and the surprisingly good crab cakes. Each interaction felt like a performance. He was an actor in a play he hadn't auditioned for. The entire evening was a master class in playing dumb, in pretending that the chasm between him and his wife wasn't miles wide and getting wider with every passing minute. He endured a conversation with one of Yasmin's art world friends, a woman draped in a $2,400 Burberry dress, who asked him what he did. When he said he was a port pilot, she blinked at him blankly. "Oh, so you drive a boat?" "Something like that," Damari said, his voice flat. "A very, very big boat." He could feel Yasmin's radiating disapproval from across the room. He lied when he told the Thornes what a brilliant job Yasmin had done with the event. "She's amazing," he said, the words tasting like ash. "Her vision is just unparalleled." Mrs. Thorne patted his arm condescendingly. "She's a star. You're a lucky man to be along for the ride." He lied again when Yasmin's parents, a lovely couple who had always been kind to him and who had given Yasmin the $100,000 that served as the gallery's seed money, asked if they were happy. "Of course," Damari said, forcing a smile that felt like it was cracking his face. Never been better. Her father, a retired architect, clapped him on the shoulder. Good. She's a special girl. Always knew she'd do great things. Damari nodded, the lie a heavy stone in his stomach. They had no idea what was coming. The biggest lie of the night was yet to come. It was the toast. At 9:10 p.m., Yasmin glided over to him, her hand cool on his back. It's time, darling. Go up there and tell everyone how wonderful I am. She smiled, but her eyes were cold, issuing an order, not making a request. He walked toward the small stage, his heart a slow, heavy drum against his ribs. The string quartet finished their piece, and a polite smattering of applause filled the rotunda. The event coordinator handed him a microphone. The metal was cold in his trembling hand. He looked out at the sea of 180 faces, all turned toward him, expectant. He saw Yasmin in the front, her head tilted, a perfect picture of a proud, adoring wife. It was the most convincing lie of all. Good evening, everyone, he began, his voice steadier than he expected. Thank you all for being here to celebrate 5 years of Aura and 5 years of my marriage to the incredible woman who built it. He paused, taking a breath. He was supposed to continue to read the saccharine, pre-approved speech Yasmin had written for him, full of words like visionary and inspiration, but the words wouldn't come. He just stood there, in the silence, under the bright lights, the truth of his life a suffocating weight. He had no idea that in less than an hour, that silence would be the kindest thing he'd ever hear again. What do you think is the worst kind of betrayal? The one you see coming? Or the one that blindsides you in front of everyone you know? Share your thoughts below. The story of what happened next might change your mind. The strike came at 9:14 p.m. Damari was still on stage, holding the microphone, the silence stretching into an awkward eternity. He opened his mouth to speak again to just get through it, when a sharp crackle echoed from the large speakers flanking the stage. The soft background music abruptly cut out. DJ Ice's voice boomed through the rotunda. Whoops, sorry folks, little technical glitch, but we do have a very special anniversary message for Damari from his loving wife, Yasmin. A ripple of sentimental awes went through the crowd. Damari looked over at the DJ booth, confused. He then looked at Yasmin. For the first time all night, her composure was gone. A flicker of pure, unadulterated panic crossed her face. She knew she hadn't prepared a message. She started to move toward the stage, her hand half raised, but it was too late. A faint hiss, the sound of a phone recording, filled the air. And then, Yasmin's voice. Not her public, charming voice, but her private, cruel one, slashed through the silence of the grand room. Hey girl, it's me. So Kalia flaked. Total moral, high ground garbage, whatever. You're up. Remember what we talked about. At the gala, I need you to go after Damari. Flirt hard. If he bites, I have my reason. A collective, sharp intake of breath swept the room. It was a sound Damari would never forget. 180 people all holding their breath at once. Phones, which had been politely tucked away, were suddenly in every hand, their small red recording lights blinking in the dimness. The voice on the recording continued, each word a hammer blow. I'm talking full court press. Tell him his wife doesn't appreciate him, but you would. Make it good. I'll make it worth your while. This is my ticket out, and I want it to be his fault. Call me back. The recording ended. The hiss stopped. And a silence unlike any Damari had ever experienced descended upon the Telfair Academy rotunda. It was a dead silence, an absolute void of sound, heavy and suffocating. It was the sound of a life imploding. Damari stood frozen on the stage, the microphone still in his hand. He looked at Yasmin. Her face was a mask of chalky white horror. Her mouth was slightly open, her eyes wide with disbelief and dawning terror. She looked from Damari to the crowd, to her parents, whose faces were etched with shock and shame, and back to Damari. Her carefully constructed world, her perfect image, her entire facade had been demolished in 32 seconds. He felt a strange calm settle over him, the kind of hyper-focused clarity he felt in the final, tense moments of docking a massive ship. The background noise of his life, the anxiety, the resentment, the quiet heartbreak, had vanished. All that was left was the truth, stark and ugly and undeniable, hanging in the air for everyone to see. He lowered the microphone. He looked directly at Yasmin, his expression not angry, not sad, just empty. He saw her lips form his name, Damari, but no sound came out. He turned, placed the microphone carefully on the lectern, and walked down the steps of the stage. The crowd parted for him like the Red Sea. No one spoke. No one touched him. They just watched, their faces a mixture of pity, fascination, and horror. He walked past Yasmin's parents, not meeting their eyes. He walked past the Thorns, who looked utterly scandalized. He walked past Yasmin herself, who reached out a trembling hand for him. He didn't flinch or slow down. He just kept walking. He walked through the grand entrance, past the stunned valet attendants, and out into the humid savannah night. The cool air hit his face. He stood on the sidewalk for a moment, the sounds of the city, a distant siren, the chirp of cicadas, the laughter from a passing bachelorette party's pedal cab, slowly filtering back into his awareness. He had walked into that building as Yasmin's husband. He walked out as a free man. The consequences began to cascade before Damari even reached his 2012 Toyota Camry. The first voicemail came through at 9:19 p.m., just as he was starting the engine. It was Yasmin, her voice a frantic, high-pitched whisper. "Damari, pick up. Pick up the phone. You don't understand. That wasn't what it sounded like. It was a joke. A stupid, stupid joke. Damari, please come back. We can fix this." He deleted it without a second thought. By the time he was on the Truman Parkway heading home to Ardsley Park, his phone was vibrating non-stop. A text from Yasmin's mother. "Damari, please call us. We are so sorry." A voicemail from her father, his voice thick with rage and disappointment. "Yasmin, what has she done? Son, I don't know what to say." He arrived home at 9:43 p.m. and walked into the house that had always felt more like her showroom than their home. For the first time, it was silent. Truly silent. No tension, no unspoken resentments, just the quiet hum of the refrigerator. He went into their bedroom, took a black duffel bag from the top of the closet, and began to pack a bag for her. He folded her expensive silk pajamas, her designer jeans, the casual clothes she wore when she wasn't performing. He was calm, methodical. Each item he packed was a weight being lifted from his own shoulders. He placed the bag by the front door. At 10:15 p.m., a text from Kalia came in. "Damari, I am so sorry for how that happened, but you needed to know the truth. I hope one day you can forgive me." He texted back a single word: "Thank you." The fallout for Yasmin was immediate and catastrophic. First, the social collapse. The 180 most influential people in Savannah's art and society scene had heard her plot in her own voice. By the next morning, the Gala voicemail was the only thing anyone was talking about. Her name was Mud. The Aura Gallery, once a symbol of chic success, was now the emblem of a scandalous, cruel deception. Second, the familial collapse. On Sunday, Damari emailed the audio file to Yasmin's father with a simple subject line: "The truth." An hour later, his father-in-law called him. "Damari," he said, his voice heavy. "My wife and I, we are ashamed. Deeply ashamed. We raised her better than this. The $100,000 we invested in her gallery, we considered it a loan against her inheritance. That loan is now due. Third, the professional collapse. On Monday morning, word spread through the tight-knit artist community. The Gulagichi painter whose work was the gallery's main draw called Yasmin and terminated their representation agreement. "My art is about heritage and truth," she told her. "You have no respect for either." Within a week, 3 other major artists had pulled their work, leaving the gallery's white walls stark and empty. The monthly rent for the gallery space, a punishing $8,000, was now an impossible burden. Fourth, the financial collapse. Damari met with a divorce attorney on Monday at 9 a.m. He played the recording. The attorney, a sharp, no-nonsense woman named Helen Grant, listened with a grim expression. "In Georgia, adultery or cruel treatment can significantly impact alimony and asset division," she said. Her fee of $1,200 per hour seeming like the best investment he'd ever made. This recording is evidence of intent and extreme emotional cruelty. It's a slam dunk. They filed that day. Because of the blatant, premeditated nature of her actions, the judge awarded Damari the house and its equity, citing it was largely maintained by his labor and premarital funds. Yasmin, who had funneled all their joint money into the gallery and her lifestyle, was left with her personal debts and a tarnished reputation. Yasmin's voicemails during that week traced her complete disintegration. Monday, 8:30 a.m. Anger. "How dare you? You're trying to ruin me. After everything I've done for us, for our name." Tuesday, 11 p.m. Bargaining. Okay, I messed up. It was stupid. But we can't throw away 5 years. I'll close the gallery. We can move. Start over. Just talk to me. Thursday, 3 a.m. Pleading. "Damari, please, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I love you. I was just scared. Scared of not being good enough. Please don't do this." Saturday, 4:52 p.m. Defeated. A 10-second message of nothing but her, sobbing, before the line went dead. He never responded. He was too busy guiding ships, focusing on the deep, steady currents, and letting the tide of his old life go out for good. 6 months later, the sunlight was warm on Damari's face. It was a bright Saturday morning, and he was at the helm of a different kind of boat. Not a pilot launch, but a small, 40-foot tour boat named the Waving Girl. After the divorce, he had taken a small personal loan of $15,000 and bought the boat from a retiring tour operator. On weekends, he now ferried tourists around the harbor, a side business he called Savannah River Stories. "And if you look to your right," he said, his voice amplified by a small speaker, "you'll see the old cotton warehouses of River Street. Every one of those bricks tells a story of trade, of struggle, and of the people who built this city with their bare hands." He was good at it. His deep, calm voice was soothing, and his knowledge of the port, of the river's history, was authentic. He didn't tell flashy, made-up stories. He told the truth. He pointed out the markers for the channel he navigated in the dark, explained the logistics of a container ship, and told the legend of Florence Martis, the waving girl who greeted every ship for 44 years. He was making an extra $1,200 a month, but it wasn't about the money. It was about reconnecting with the water, not as a job, but as a home. It was about sharing his small, quiet world and seeing the wonder in other people's eyes. He was no longer in shipping. He was a storyteller. The house in Ardsley Park was different now, too. It was his. The uncomfortable $6,000 sofa was gone, sold on Facebook Marketplace for $800. In its place was a big, comfortable leather couch he'd bought for $1,500 at a local furniture store. The stark, expensive sculptures were gone. His walls now held nautical charts, historical photos of Savannah, and a beautiful, framed photograph of the port at sunrise, a gift from Callia. She had her own studio now and was thriving. They had met for coffee a few times. A quiet friendship built on a foundation of mutual respect. He spent his evenings on the back porch he had built, reading books, no longer feeling like an intruder in his own home. He had planted a small garden, and the first tomatoes were beginning to ripen on the vine. The house was no longer a cold showroom. It was a sanctuary. On Sundays, he had a new ritual. He would drive out to Bonaventure Cemetery, not to mourn, but to walk. He'd wander the beautiful, haunting avenues lined with ancient oaks, dripping with Spanish moss. He'd read the inscriptions on the headstones, some dating back to the 1800s. He felt a profound sense of peace there, a connection to time and history. He realized that lives, like ships, leave a wake behind them. Some are turbulent and destructive. Others are straight and true. He thought about Yasmin sometimes. He had heard she'd lost the gallery and moved back in with her parents in Atlanta. He didn't feel anger or hatred, just a quiet, distant sadness for the woman she could have been if she hadn't been so obsessed with appearances. He had forgiven her, not for her sake, but for his. Forgiveness was the final act of letting go, the last tie to the anchor that had been holding him down. True wealth, he now understood, isn't about the price tag on your clothes or the art on your walls. It has nothing to do with lavish parties or the approval of important people. True wealth is in the foundation. It's the integrity of your character, the strength of your word, the quiet dignity of your work. It's knowing who you are when no one is watching. A ship can be covered in gleaming paint and fly a fancy flag, but if the hull is rotten, it will sink in the first storm. Yasmin had built a beautiful ship, but it was rotten to the core. Damari's own vessel was smaller, simpler, but it was solid. It was sound, and it was ready for whatever came next, sailing peacefully under a wide open sky. What does a truly rich life look like to you? Is it about money and status, or something deeper? Share your definition of wealth in the comments below, and let's keep this conversation going. Thank you for being part of our community.